Very warm welcome once again, Nandini, and to all of you who are here. The weather's improved, and hopefully the conversation will also be one. Great pleasure and honor to have you here on the stage with us. And as I begin, I just want to ask you about that big question that perhaps has been asked of you many times ago. 13, 14 years ago, when you started in business, you've been through many ups and downs. Uh, Today, on the cusp of 2024, when we talk about innovation, when we talk about powerful women driving change, what is that one thing that you are yourself looking forward to?
I think one of the things, thank you for having me here. One of the things I would love to see the change is, as someone said earlier, we have 19% women in the formal workforce. That is abysmally low. And as a country, if we want to achieve our dreams, we need to make sure that each of these girls can also achieve their dreams. Everyone deserves a seat at the table, and they shouldn't be excluded because of their gender, their caste, their class.
You credited with steering the business out of difficult times. All businesses have a business life cycle. Uh, in the challenges that you have faced in the tough phases, what's been the learning as a business leader that you would like to share with our audience here?
I think the power of communication, open and transparent communication, and across the board, and you can, I think, never over communicate. I think that's one of the lessons I learned. I always thought, okay, I'm communicating enough. And then I got told by my team, I was like, no, you need to be out there communicating much, much more about where you see us, what is the vision, what are the challenges.
Many years ago, when I was reading up about you, I believe you started HR appraisal, the annual appraisal process, almost 10 months before it was due. Employees of the company were then taken by surprise. What really drove that, Nandini?
I guess is as as a company, and I think, and as a country, I think we need to be more process oriented. So I'm a believer in the power of process, and then actually that can help you scale.
And is it still 10 months in advance, or is it a usual quarter in advance?
I think we continue to, again, it's the power of communication and the power of feedback. So I think there's a lot of feedback that happens across the board. But I think the power of process, whether it's in business excellence, whether it's in, quarterly planning, I think that's all really important.
Okay. You know, you have a heritage, a business heritage. Your mother has done so much work and, of course, has won recognitions for the work that she has done in public health. You kind of have lived and the pharma sector all your life. Is there any time during your work days when you think that there could be life outside pharma as well?
I think in every job you enjoy what you do. I think the power of patience, and I'm going to tell you a story. We are a contract manufacturer for other pharma companies. And at one point, this lady comes and she's like, I'm a finance person. I had accounting. I could work for any company. But the product that we're making at the plant now was given to my neighbor in a clinical trial. That gave her, for head and neck cancer, it gave her 3 extra months of life. And that allowed her to see her grandchild being born, right? So that's when you wake up and you say, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the impact that my work has, not just on the company, but also on outsiders. Ultimately, you want to live a good life. You want to be doing good things. So I think that's part of it.
Okay, I'm going to shift track to another more recent experience, and various reports have described it as a brutal experience for the stock after the demerger. But my question is not on the stock. It's about, uh, not many listed companies in India are headed, run and operated by women leaders like you. Do you think the broader markets are conscious of the Indian pharma story, including the three or four sectors that you are working in?
I think the markets like pharma, I think it's a strength of India. I think we and the pharma sector overall has grown. And some of, the biggest pharma companies, where you have, we're talking about earlier in the panel about role models. So besides my mother, who, played a
A
very...
round of applause. Mrs. Piramal is also here, and she's recording this conversation. Thank you for that. But a round of applause. Please
So
go ahead.
you had a lot of role models in the sector. So, and women who've gone out and led larger companies than mine. So I think we've got, there's a lot to learn from them.
Okay. Before I ask you about the year of turnaround and growth, uh, who, apart from your mother and obviously your father, are your role models?
I actually think of a lot of the Infosys founders are role models in that when they actually retired, they gave back to the country and have changed the country in good ways, right? And I think that's something I would aspire to, is that you actually continue to change the country. I mean, Aadhaar and the payment system would not have been there without someone like Nandan Nilekani.
Absolutely, and those are developments where digital India, which everyone talks about, it's actually no longer India, it's gone deep into Bharat, so it should be digital Bharat. But I want to come to the corporate part of your portfolio and what you have said in recent public comments about a year of turnaround. What does that really mean? What are you hinting towards?
I think there's a focus on actually just in a way the business, which is on revenue growth, profitability, operational excellence, productivity, and managing costs. So it's actually, that's the only things we're focused on right now.
Do you think women manage costs better than men in business? They do at home, of course, but my question is about business.
I think it's across the board. I don't think there's a difference.
Okay. In terms of the targets that you have set for yourself and the company, if you could sort of talk about what are the immediate priorities that you're outlining?
I think what we're saying is mid-teens growth in terms of revenue and a significant improvement in EBITDA.
Okay, that's a very pointed target to have. Let's turn to one of the broader questions, and again, this is something that you've spoken about. This is India's place in the world, and India plus one. I don't like saying China plus one, but India plus one. Are we in a position to really be a long-term player, being able to become the supplier for the world? We do it in so many ways. We have 3,000 pharma companies in India alone. There are thousands of other ancillaries who are attached to it, Nandini.
I think the pharma sector has proven to be a sector that has, good jobs, it has exports, and it has and can compete world class. So I think as we continue to focus, I think we have to continue to focus on quality, because, and that's a quality as a sector as a whole. So for us, for example, quality is critical. Each of our plants, we've had about 4 or 5 US FDA inspections in the last 6 months, and we've kind of closed all of those. And that's something, it costs money. And we have, as an industry, we then say, okay, we have to continue to keep that focus on.
India's pharma story has over the last 2-3 decades seen phases where some people say that there's a concerted attack on India's capabilities as a low-cost drug manufacturer, and that certain companies or the country is being targeted because we have challenged the big and powerful companies in this regard. Is that a view that you share? Are quality concerns sometimes overblown?
I say that some of the recent inspections have shown that people weren't taking quality seriously enough. And, I think that's something that as an ethical company you need to do.
What do you do separately or differently to ensure that quality and standards are maintained? Because sometimes in various sectors it's said, oh, the work culture is really at fault. But what is your company doing differently?
Culture, as you said, is incredibly important, right? You have to set the culture where quality has the empowerment to say, no, this is going to impact patient safety and we can't do that. So that's one. Two is we get audited a lot. We get audited by 150 companies a year. So there's someone walking through our plants nearly every week. And that means a lot of eyes on what we're doing. And that kind of makes sure that you're audit ready. You can't paint the walls because every month, right?
And do you think the rigorous standards and the evaluation that you consistently undergo is something that other sectors in India need to learn from? Of course, pharma's scrutiny is due to the fact that the medicines that we consume need to be good, not just in India, all over the world. But are there learnings that other corporate sectors can take?
I think putting the customer and the patient at the heart of what you do and understanding the difference that you can make to their lives, I think, and making it real for everybody on the shop floor, I think that's actually incredibly valuable. So we spent a lot of time actually saying, look, to our workers, to us saying, you need to be confident that the medicine that you're making, you can give it to your parents, to your kids, to your family, and you know it will work, right? And I think that's a very powerful thing, saying, look, what I do is making a difference to someone's life and to someone's health. And that making that realization, that kind of sets the culture.
I'll ask this point once again, and that is to do with, could you sort of say this, that in terms of quality, where does Indian pharma overall, not just one particular segment, stand globally?
Some of our companies are world class, but because they're working with the topmost regulators of the world, but some of the companies are not.
And why is that?
Our Indian regulators don't have the same quality standards as the US FDA, and that costs money.
We are now completely out of COVID, but there's always a new scare, a new fever that worries, and I think people have moved on from there. From your company's perspective, do you think the tough times that you have had in the recent past are over? What can you tell all those who are watching us, your investors, those who are invested in your stock as well, about what the future looks like?
I think we're optimistic about the future. Obviously, there are the external factors which are going to continue, but I think we're quite optimistic about the future.
Okay. As we wind down this conversation, I want to ask you about, being people who have, your brother and you have inherited a very substantial business, but there must be pressure on you to make your own mark, to prove yourself. Does your father or mother help you with that, or are you completely on your own now when it comes to the business?
No, I think we get a lot of advice. Whether it's over the dinner table or in the car, I think there's a lot of advice.
And is that advice, does that come with praise, or are they strict, and do they hold you to very high standards?
I think it's a family of high standards.
It's a family of high standards, the Piramals, of course. I'll take one more point, and I had asked you about this. I recently interviewed the head of Deloitte in South Asia, and one of the things I learned, and frankly I didn't know this, viewers, that company has around 1,27,000 employees or thereabouts, and they don't have a HR officer, they have a chief happiness officer. Is that your approach also to HR, because that's what you started many years ago?
I actually think a chief HR officer is the chairperson or the CEO, because people are incredibly important. They're the foundation of the company, and people's strategy has to be driven from the top.
Absolutely, and that's the most important point. People are very, very important, and while there can be staff and a department to run the payroll and manage the payroll, I think that's an incredible point that you make, that human resources and people have to be managed by the topmost levels of the company. Nandi, I enjoyed this short conversation. Thank you very much for your time. Viewers, a round of applause for Nandini Piramal.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that very insightful fireside chat, Ms. Piramal and Siddharth. I'd like to call on stage Saurabh Majumdar, editor Business Today, to express a token of our gratitude. All thanks to our gifting partner, Tata Tenera.